Like cooking, everything has a recipe.
A set of instructions to follow in order to gain a certain result.
Music is no different.
Be it ingredients for a dish, a set list for an amazing show,
Or a release strategy for a successful launch.
these are all recipes.
Hi, we're your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brandon.
Come and join us in our kitchen as we go through the Music Makers Cookbook.
Let's get cooking.
Welcome to the Music Makers Cookbook, the podcast where we help independent artists like yourself craft and cook recipes for success in the music industry. My name is Sean,
I'm Brandon.
and we are going to do an episode today.
We are going to do an episode today. But before we start this episode,
That is a hard ass
very
transition.
This is unplanned.
There's nothing smooth. Just
No,
like,
no.
yes, this is podcast, but first.
But first, we must go through our sponsors of today's episode. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Brandon, did you know it's more profitable to sponsor yourself?
I feel like that was just like a diss. Was
No.
that?
No,
Yeah,
no, I say in
know.
admiration. Dude, eventually I'm
But
doing
eventually,
that.
though, yeah,
Like probably around episode 50,
Yeah.
I'll have enough.
it actually makes sense. Though.
It does, yeah.
Like 100%. When he started doing that, I was like, oh my god, this like makes so much sense though.
Yeah. Well, because like it's the
Yeah.
target audience, so
Yeah.
that's who you want to put it in front of. So yeah, it does make sense.
Maybe you could double dip though. Maybe you could have a
Probably. Well, it's kind of like
have an ad and an ad for yourself.
Well, it's kind of like, why would you sell T-shirts of a video game at your concert or like Nike stuff at your concert when they're there to see you as a band? You should sell your band shirts
Right.
instead.
Right.
So it's like, hey, did you know
That
you
makes so
sell
much
more
sense.
merch when
Yeah.
it's got the artist, when it's got the album logo on it versus just a plain shirt?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes so much more sense.
So I guess the same thing
Yeah.
for podcast. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, it's transitive property.
ties it back around.
Yeah. Speaking of sponsors, this is not a sponsor, but I don't know if anybody else saw the reel we put out like 2 weeks ago, which I guess at this time would be about a month ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was a slight spill that one day in the studio. We decided to put out the content because we were recording, so why not?
The spill
And-
that rocked the world.
Yeah, like you could audibly hear it. It was kind of funny.
Such a
And
funny sound effect.
it was.
Dude, eventually we're getting a soundboard and that
Yes.
spill.
Yes, thank you. I've
Dude.
always wanted to do a soundboard, dude. Yep. And my fiance and I, we went to Costco and we found these thermoses, actually branded thermos.
I have the same exact ones
Really,
from Costco.
dude, $20 for both of
Yep.
these, like 10 a piece.
They're great.
Oh my god! I thought I like hit the jackpot.
So here's the funny thing. My family does a white elephant
Yeah.
where we all put gifts in the middle and, it's white elephant.
Yep.
And we put in a thermos set
Mhm.
like 2 years ago because we're like, we kind of want to win it back.
Yeah.
The whole idea is put something in that you wouldn't mind winning back.
Yeah.
That's kind of the philosophy a lot of us put into it.
Mhm.
So that you don't like really get duds or whatever.
Yeah.
There's
There's an equal exchange of value.
exactly.
Mhm.
There was another person in my family that also put in a setup too.
Wow.
So ours got pulled and it got stolen twice, so it got locked, so we couldn't win it back. 'Cause
Yeah.
We're like, we kind of want thermoses.
oh no, they're nice.
And then another thermos set was opened up,
Mm-hmm.
and it got stolen once. My grandpa stole it,
Oh.
and this was the first time my girlfriend ever met my family. And she was like the second to last one, and it was her turn. I'm like, you could steal those, and we could
Yeah.
get those mugs back.
Yeah.
And she's like, but it's your grandpa, and
Yeah.
I just met your family.
Oh man, this is like a whole political debate now.
She stole them.
Oh, good for her.
For my grandpa, and instantly won over my whole family. They're like, yes!
That's great, dude. Risks are good to take,
Yes, it was great.
Yes.
So yeah, we got the same
dude,
thermoses.
and they're awesome.
They
man.
really do.
They're really
They keep the
great.
temperature well.
Yes,
They're
yes.
easy to clean.
They lock.
They
And
don't
then there's,
smell funny.
No, they're easy. Like you said, they're easy to clean, and then there's like a little like sippy thing here. So if you drop it while this is open, it won't really spill out as much as like the real did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get the green machine.
My sister commented that on.
I
the
saw
phone. Yeah,
that.
dude.
I'm like, how did they know? I didn't know it was your sister. So yeah, you should follow us on Instagram.
Yeah,
and
because you're
TikTok
gonna see probably a lot more of that stuff. Because
Oh yeah, shorts are coming.
We're unhinged.
Shorts are coming.
Like
Oh,
and
yeah,
productive
Brandon's
ones
loose.
too.
Brandon's unhinged. It's loose.
Yeah,
It's kind of unsettling to be next to him occasionally, but
Yeah.
I'll suffer through it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, honestly, right? I can't even stand to be within myself. Anyways, what's
Whoa, we just got something darker here. Hard pivot, like a politician. So today we're going to be talking, this is the third episode of the live sound series that Brandon and I are doing, where we talk about kind of the whole process of performing live.
Yeah.
All from getting a gig, how to present yourself to a venue or a booker to get a job, to preparing for it, performing it, promoting it, and then even afterwards referring back to like what to do once the whole thing's done. Just kind of best practices or just some ideas on how to best emulate who you are as an artist and get that across to really give fans that you have a great experience and to quickly capture new fans into your live experience.
Yeah.
Because live is a huge part of music,
massive,
especially after COVID. Everyone's realizing that this is kind of important. So that's what we're doing. And this episode, we are going to be talking about what gigs you should take, how to book and find, how to get sitting musicians. Like if you don't have a full band, but you want to have a lot of live instruments and whatnot, how to get people to play with you who maybe aren't in the band. And then also kind of the rehearsal process, some kind of why it's important to rehearse and how to communicate with the people in the group on how to rehearse and that kind of deal. That's the process we're talking about today. So you mind if I just kind of take the first thing and jump into it?
Yeah.
So the first thing is like what gigs to take. And just full transparency, what I'm about to say, I took pretty directly from Ari, from Ari's take.
He's great.
Yeah.
Lots of great resources from him.
Oh yeah, I grabbed this from How to Make It in the New Music Business, which is a book that he released. It's a really, really great book. I highly recommend reading it. The third edition's out as we were saying this. He's been updating it every couple of years because the industry changes. There's new apps, new ways of communicating, new ways of performing. The world changes. Obviously, the second one was released before COVID, and now it's after it, and like that changed everything. Anyways, this is in a kind of a scale that he uses that I learned from, and it's very, very effective. So I just want to give him props to it. But this is basically a scale that he uses on how to pick whether a gig is worth doing or not. And that is to kind of rank it on 3 criterias and rank each one from a scale from 1 to 10, add them up. And if it's 15 or higher, it's a good gig to take. But if it's less than that, don't take it. And those 3 criterias are the first criteria, does it pay well? So if they're expecting to do it for free, obviously that's a 1. If normally you play a gig for $200 and this person's offering you $1,000, that's a 10. Obviously that scale will change depending on how big a fan base you have and how it works. So just keep it relative to your analytics, how many people you get, how large your fan base is, what the area is. Keep that in mind. But just on a scale from 1 to 10, does it pay well? Second one is, will it improve my career?
Yeah.
This headlining act is right up my alley. All my fans love this person. So if I can open for them, I know their fans will love my music too. That's a 10. Or, hey, it's just me and I'm playing a kid's birthday party and none of the 5-year-olds care and the moms are all drunk off of wine.
Or there's going to be an A&R scout there, or there's going to be this producer there that I really want to work with eventually. So maybe it'd be a great opportunity to meet them, you know. Lots of different avenues that this might portray for sure.
Oh yeah. What can will advance my career? Or even if it's like, it's a free one, but there's a large crowd. Like, there's a bunch of municipality concerts around here, and some of them, the larger ones, can get anywhere from 2,000 to 5,000 people on a bigger one. Okay, well, can I get a crew together to kind of help promote my band while I'm performing? People to walk through the crowds, friends, family, saying, "Hey, if you like this, here's a business card or scan this QR code and you can see their schedule, or you can go to the website to book them for your business event or your birthday party or your wedding or whatever." Try to get people out there interacting with them. Or, hey, here's a CD if you want to buy the CD, have a merch table. How can you make it so it's really worth it? Because maybe the crowd is a 3 or a 5, but are you able to get people to help you enlist the help of dedicated fans or family or just anyone to go out there and promote it? Like, can it be very, very beneficial? And that can obviously make it a higher number. And then the last one is, do you want to do it? / like, will it be fun? Like,
or do you need to do it? That's also another one too. But yeah.
So yeah, exactly. So like, do I want to perform this? Is this going to be enjoyable for me? is this a good venue, or like where they have a PA where I just have to bring my backline, my instruments?
Yeah.
Or is it a place where the stage is on the 10th floor, no elevator, and I have to bring my PA?
Yeah.
And it's a giant ballroom, so I'm expected to bring a ton of stuff.
Or is it 2 hours away? Or is it
or
4 hours away? You know, or do I even like this venue in the first place? Like last time I was there, I didn't enjoy it as well, or didn't have a good experience with it.
Sound guy was a jerk to me.
Exactly.
He muted me in the main, so I don't want to go back again.
I had that happen before.
Really?
I have.
Wow, story
terrible.
time.
It was, oh yeah. Okay, so I think I told it like last episode, but really quickly rehashing it real fast. Went to the show at should I say the location? Probably not. I probably shouldn't. But it's
well, how many years ago was this?
6.
It's far enough.
Okay, I would.
Is this the amp story?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like he muted the vocal or something.
Yeah, no, totally muted the lead guitar.
Yeah, just buried it.
Yeah, sucked, man. Monitor guy was really nice though, so shout out to him.
That's cool. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I've done a similar, not that, but from something else I brought up about being multiple stories up. We were providing PA for this band that did a bunch of weddings and corporate events and whatnot. And they had one, I forget the hotel. It was a hotel in downtown Detroit.
Oh, cool.
And there's like no loading bay. So we had to like drive around until we could find some place we could like unload in front of it. And it was on like the 11th, 12th floor. Luckily they had a service elevator.
I was going to ask if they did, yeah.
But it was a service elevator, so it was not very big. And it was like we had to go through the whole kitchen, and they were cooking up food for all the events they had. So the servers were constantly using it.
It was really busy.
Either the thing was there, or it was crowded, or we had to wait like 10 minutes for the elevator to come back down. It was just pain in the ass.
Oh my God.
At least I had an elevator.
Yeah.
I had done a couple on the second floor that don't have an elevator, but one floor is better than 11.
Oh, for sure. For sure. But it's still brutal though when you're carrying up all that equipment.
Oh yeah. So that makes it lower on the scale.
Exactly.
Whereas, can we park next to the stage, and can we have our cars right behind it? This is, it's an outdoor venue where we can just be really close to it. That makes it 10.
Yep.
In terms of how easy is it to access.
Exactly.
So all these criteria affect do I want to do it?
Yep.
Will it be fun to do it?
Yep.
Yeah, my buddy's a sound guy and we have a fun time, so I'm just gonna go there.
Exactly.
So yeah, those are the 3 criterias.
Yep.
And as I said, you rank them 1 to 10 and add them all up. And if it's above 15, then it's something you should at least consider doing.
Yeah.
First crack.
Yep.
So for example, let's kind of put them all together. Let's say you normally take $500 for a gig, because it's you and 2 other artists, and to make it's a local one, so it's not like you're paying a lot in gas, and they offer you $400. Okay, well that's not great. Maybe that's a 4 out of 10, because it's a little bit lower than what you would normally do.
Yep.
But it's not free, so it's not nothing. So that's a 4. Will improve my career. Maybe the sound guy also works at a local studio that you've been trying to get into. Right. And like, I'd say you want to try to be a session musician, or you just want to work with this guy because he works with a bunch of other artists that are really big in your scene. So you want to get good connections with him to try to get in there. Okay, that makes it like an 8.
Yeah.
Because it will improve your career if you do it. Maybe not hugely, but it will improve it.
Yep.
So that 4 and 8 makes it a 12. But then, like, do you want to do it? Let's say it's in the basement of a rundown building.
Yeah.
That can only fit like 10 people, and even though it's close, it's you can't park right up to it. You got to park down the street and lug your gear down the road. Like, they just got weird loading in laws or whatever, or rules, or whatever. And I'm trying to think of more things that like make it bad.
Yeah. But I totally get what you're saying.
Yeah, it's just not a good venue.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a 1.
Yeah.
Or a 2. If it's a 2, okay, so that's 4 plus 8 is 12 plus 2 is 14.
Yeah, you're just
close,
under the threshold.
But
yeah.
You have to decide. At that point, you really have to think about, okay, well, how valuable is this to my career? Or can you turn one of them to become a higher number? Like, will it be fun? Okay, well, maybe I can set up something to live stream it so that my fans can stream it and they can donate to pay more money to pick from a list to choose my set.
Yeah.
Okay, well, now you get more money, and now it's more fun because you're interacting with people who you already know who can go there.
Yeah.
And you know you're getting a good mix because the sound guy runs a studio.
Yep.
Well, that bumps the 4 to a 5, and that bumps the 2 to a 4. Well, now you're at 17.
Yep.
Oh, cool. Now
Yeah,
you're more
like,
like,
oh yeah, I'm definitely over the hump now. Yeah, I think that's a great point, because if it's like one of those cases where you're leaning like, I don't really want to do this, but maybe this is a good opportunity to test something that I've wanted to do for a while. And this would be the low stakes gig that I kind of need to do that, right? With the live streaming or whatever the case may be. I also want to bring up that each one of these points is a different type of like quantifier, right? Like the gig, does it pay well? That's like a concrete number. You know that number, and you know what you need to get paid, right? You should be able to gauge that for yourself on wherever you're at within your career. The second one, will it improve my career? This one's a little harder because you need to have intel about the area or about the venue or about the staff in there that to help you make your decision, or about the crowd that it brings out. So this one actually takes a little bit more research than just saying, will it improve my career? Yes or no. Like this actually takes like maybe a little bit more effort.
how can you find out some of these answers? Like, how can you find out if the venue plays kind of music that you'd play?
Yeah, go to a show. Like, just go there. That's one of the best ways of doing it. Maybe go there and frequent there maybe once or twice at least before. Maybe talk to some of the wait staff, kind of see what's going on with how they set up music. Try to be there for an entire like load in and like an entire show, like from start to finish. I think that would be a great way to do it. That's very time consuming.
If it's close.
If it's close. Another way to do it, you can go to their website. You can go read reviews from other people that have been there. And then you can also, in those reviews, you can see who is writing those reviews and maybe kind of get a good base idea of who the demographic that frequents that area is. Do you have something that
I feel like you have another one that you want to go over?
Go.
Oh, okay. I think you're getting a little bit too specific almost. You can just look at what bands have performed there previously. Or are these bands that you're familiar with?
Yeah, that'll work.
That attract a crowd that you want, and they've played there. You can say, oh, they consistently hire this kind of band.
Right.
I'm that kind of band.
The trend
so
of the
I'm
bands.
Good.
Yep.
Or hey, they've hired this kind of band that's similar to me, but the rest of it is like I'm folk pop, and most of it's Viking metal.
Yeah. Right.
But they hired this other folk pop band, so I'm gonna text them and say, hey, how did the show here go?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it was great, phenomenal. We had a great turnout. The people were bopping with us. Cool, I'm gonna do it. It's like no one cared. They were all just drinking at the bar.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe I'll pass on it.
Exactly. Yep. And then like Sean was saying, like your peers around you are a big part of this, where you can hopefully just text somebody, be like, hey, what was it like playing here 2 years ago or a year ago? Maybe things have changed since then, of course, but I mean, if it's more recent, you can be like, hey, what was it like performing there? And they can kind of steer you in the right direction too with their experiences. Although sometimes, like some of these venues, the day might really matter too. So that's another thing to really kind of take in consideration too. A Friday is definitely different than a Tuesday. So you need to take that into consideration. The last one, do I want to do it? And will it be fun? This is,
and as you said, do I have to? Right?
Or do I have to do it? This one takes a lot of it's a big gut check, right? You know what you should be doing and what you shouldn't be doing. Hopefully. And you need to really be honest with yourself, but you need to maybe not all, depending on where you're at, you might need to beat yourself up about it, but you also might not need to. And what I mean by that is, don't beat yourself up for not taking on an opportunity that you're not totally excited about, as long as you can afford not to take that opportunity, because that can be better spent somewhere else, right, in your career. We've talked about opportunity cost many of times on the podcast. And actually, that's literally the definition of opportunity cost. Go rewind 15 seconds. What I just said is literally the definition. Is you can take time where you'd put you can take time where you'd put it in one place and take that time and then put it in a different place if you so choose not to do that one thing, right? So you trade off time in different varying locations. What a terrible explanation that was. I prefer the one 30 seconds ago now. But my explanation of the explanation was way worse. So maybe Sean can do a better job.
Well, I was just going to say, like, another thing to consider is the area that you are in. If you are located in LA or Nashville, it's still very unlikely, but there's a slightly higher chance that even if it's something you're not completely excited to do, if you do it, somebody might be in the crowd just randomly that could be very beneficial. Like, for example, like I think it was Tenacious D's second or third. I'm bringing Tenacious D into the podcast.
I love Tenacious D.
They're
Tenacious
like,
D.
Tenacious D. Their second or third show, Dave Grohl was in the audience.
Wow.
And I think he's played drums on
Yeah,
all
I think he has.
of their records.
Yeah, I think he has.
And he just, and when they started, they only had one song.
Yep.
And that was Tribute.
Yep.
So they did a whole show with, well, they only played one song.
Yep.
And he was just like, I like you.
It's really just as simple as that.
Yeah. You never know sometimes.
You never know.
Yeah.
You never know. And sometimes that never knowing, though, is also a gamble as well. Because, like, well, you never know. But then also, well, you never know.
Exactly. And
Right.
don't use it as like oh, this is going to be a 10 because
Yes.
somebody may be there. It's like,
Yes.
no, it's still a 2.
Yep.
But
Yep.
if you are at 15, you got nothing else booked that day.
Yeah.
Maybe it's worth fudging a little
It's
bit more.
almost like a half glass full, half glass empty kind of ordeal with this one. It's like, will somebody be there? Maybe. Will somebody be there? Probably not, right? Like, which
Yeah.
one are you going to choose? And you really, like I said, you really have to kind of have that perspective to be able to make the decision on this one. So this one will probably waver the most, honestly, because like this might have a lot of bearing on how you're feeling that day as well when you get offered the gig too. So just bear in mind that this one is probably the toughest one, in my opinion.
Very hard to
because
gauge.
there's nothing objective about it unless it's like far away or just a bad venue, right?
Yeah.
Then it's like, okay, well now it's all how I feel or how we feel as a,
Like,
as a
I've
group.
heard bad things about it, so I don't want to do it. Like, there's some
Exactly.
objectivity to it.
Right.
Of like, oh, they have a
Right.
history of ripping off the band.
Right.
Well,
Right.
then like I don't really want to work here or things
Yep.
like that.
Or someone got mugged outside the venue
Yeah,
and this
not in a
happened.
safe area.
Yeah, exactly.
Or the last week the band van got stolen
Yep.
or whatever.
Yep.
Which I've had a couple, but I've had a buddy where that happened to. Their
terrible.
van got stolen. It's very unfortunate.
That's terrible. I know somebody that, well, I know my fiance knows somebody that was playing a gig in Detroit somewhere, and their Strandbergs got stolen out of their car. You know, the headless guitars.
Mm-hmm.
I think 2 or 3 of them were stolen out of there.
Rough, dude.
Yeah, dude. That's a
Fucking hell.
bummer. Those are like $3,000 guitars.
All right.
Bummer.
Well, let's say you decide to take the gig.
Yes, we're happy gigs.
It's a good show. It's
happy
10s all
gigs.
around.
We've selected that we're doing this gig. Yeah.
Yes, it's a good one. 10s
Yes.
all around. Okay, cool. So now let's say if you're an independent artist who you are the focus of it, you don't have a backing band, a full group of people committed to you, and you need to bring in musicians to perform with you to really take the live experience to a next level. You want that full vibe, that energy of having awesome, talented musicians on stage at once to really get the crowd invested. That means you need to get gigging, sitting musicians
Yes.
for your show.
Yep. Yep.
How do we do that?
I don't know, man. Craigslist. That was so bad.
No, a great thing to do
Yeah.
is just if you already have friends that are in the scene that do a genre that is similar to you, just talk to your friends.
Ask around.
Ask around. If someone's willing to do it, that because they like you, your friends, you've maybe sat in a couple of their shows before, they might be willing to sit on yours.
Yep.
And a lot of times, if it's a sit-in, they'll do it for free.
Yeah.
Because they're there to help you out. They're a friend, they're local, and they just kind of want to have a good night with you. A lot of
Totally.
times they'll sit in for free. But a gigging musician, that's their job. That's very different.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, you can ask around, ask other bands you've worked with, like, hey, do you know any gigging musicians? You said you honestly can go out like Craigslist or things like, or
You
just
could.
Google it. And
yeah.
like a lot of times they'll have their own
groups.
website. Yeah.
Facebook groups.
Facebook
yeah.
groups. A lot of times they'll have their own like website or listings out there. See if any of the bands that you know with do hire gigging musicians that you can hire them in.
I'm sure there are apps out there too nowadays too. I
there
would have to look it up, but
There are.
I'm sure are plenty of apps where you can hire other musicians.
What's the one called? I've tried a couple of them. Most of them are kind of iffy because there's a lot of people on there who are trying to do it but aren't like fully committed to it. Like
Gotcha.
I know Vamper's one of them.
Oh yeah, Vamper. Yeah.
In the Mix is another one. Not in the
Okay.
Mix. No, it's like Mix something. That one I found more success with. I
Okay.
used it to try to hire a female vocalist to do backing vocals on one of my clients' tracks once.
Gotcha.
And it was really hard to get people to respond. But it is a way to start looking.
is,
And if
it
you
is.
find someone, great, they're cool.
Especially if you're super remote in like the
Yes.
middle of nowhere, because like that can be really tough. Like that's an uphill battle for sure. So one of these places could help supplement that.
Oh yeah, for sure. But then like once you do find a musician, you do want to work with them, remember this is their job. They are a gigging musician
Yeah.
and they need to be paid for it.
Yeah.
So that can be kind of a kind of stressful thing to think about, because especially if you're just starting off, might not have that big of a budget. It might be hard to pay 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or more backing artists a consistent salary, especially when a lot of gigs you're doing starting off are mainly because the expand your career is a 10, but the pay might be a 1.
Yeah. It might be negative in pay to play.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So think about what budget you can realistically have. And when you approach these gigging musicians, it's important that you approach them with your budget. Say ahead of time, like, hey, I would love it if you could do this show.
Yeah.
You're an amazing artist, especially like if you work with them before, you already have a little bit of a repertoire there, but just say, I really want to work with you. This is my music. Here's my EPK. Here's my demo. So you can kind of listen to the music if you feel like you want to do it. My budget is $100 for a show and $50 for a rehearsal.
Yeah.
And that's actually a pretty...
Actually,
That's a steady... that's a solid amount. That's kind of a standard amount that you can expect somebody to request or to pay somebody. And say, I'm looking to have 2 rehearsals before the show. This is the show date. Are you interested? But make sure you upfront tell them what your budget is, because if you go up to them and say, like, hey, man, I want to gig with you. How much do you cost?
Right.
And they say, oh, yeah, I have to do it for $250 a show.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, now you're like, crap, I can't afford them.
Yep.
So either you just walk away, or you say, man, I'm sorry, I can only do 100 a show. Are you interested? And either they just walk away, or they could even be like offended that I said 250, you're offering me less than half. Right. I can't do that.
Yeah.
Whereas if you start with 100 and then say, nah, man, sorry, I usually do it for 250.
Right.
You can then have the power and say, man, that's a little bit out of my budget. Could you do 150?
Yep.
Now you have the control of it, and you can just walk away and say, man, I'm sorry to hear that. And if you're willing to walk away, then, maybe they'll be like, this guy sounds cool. I like his music.
Yeah.
Because you're approaching right off the bat with, this is my music. I'd love to do it. But anyways.
And I do want to say real quick, if you ever do walk away from that situation, for both sides, if you're getting hired or if you're the one hiring, leave it at a good note, please. Just be nice to each other, right? Because you never know when that person can come back and actually help you out later down the line, right? Or you meet them at a show, or there might be an opportunity, with this person elsewhere or something. Just be nice. Just be mindful. Nobody get mad at each other. Seriously. It's music.
Are you saying don't burn the bridge?
I'm saying don't burn the bridge
No
or
fire?
the brisket.
Oh, don't burn the brisket. Dude, brisket's so good.
It's so good. If there's char on the brisket, though,
that's how it needs to be.
That's how it needs to be.
Char is flavor.
Yeah.
All right. But yeah, no, when you start off the front hand, you're not risking offending them with your budget,
right?
Because you are setting the expectation of, this is what I can do it for. And then they have the power to say, no, I can't do it. So that's just a good way to put it out front right off the bat.
Yep.
And say they're interested, so you're not risking, as I said, offending them or anything like that.
Yeah.
And as I said, a good average rate is 100 to 150 per show, and 50 to 100 per rehearsal, depending on the musician and how booked they are and how good they are.
Yep.
So once you do that, a lot of times, let me take a step back a bit. Reset. Keeping this all in.
Please.
A lot of starting musicians and artists will think, man, I can't afford that. $100 per night, even if it's for one musician, that's a lot. I don't know if I'm going to make that much. Well, one, how can you try to position yourself so you can recoup as much of those costs as possible? Well, can you ask them to bring some of their friends? Can you try to set up make sure you have a merch table, you're not just showing up with nothing? Just any way you can recoup any of the costs that you have to put into it, the better. But the second thing is, a lot of times artists will say, how about this? I'll split the door costs with you. So a lot of times after the venue sells a certain amount of tickets to recuperate the costs for paying their staff, they will then take the extra and split it amongst the bands that are performing. Yeah. Because most venues, their main kicker is the alcohol.
Right.
So as soon as the tickets cover the sound guy's expense and the monitor guy or the lighting guy or whatever, then they'll split the excess with the band.
Exactly.
It is not a good idea to tell a gigging musician, hey, I'll just split the door with you. Because if you do split the door, so this is their job, it's not a consistent agreement, and they're then relying on you to bring more people, this all stuff, they don't have a guarantee for their time. And the real danger is, this is your music. it's a business. You are investing time, money, energy into it. You're writing the songs, you're putting together the rehearsal times. Everything is a representation of you as a capital A artist. This is your art. You are the CEO of your band, of your music. So because you're investing so much time and investing so much money into it, any potential increase in profit should be yours because you're the one who worked it.
Yeah.
You composed it. You put it all together.
You're also taking on the risk.
You're taking on the risk. Exactly. Because if things do go bad, you're the one who has to now foot all these bills and whatnot.
Exactly.
So as you grow, as the venues get bigger, as you get a higher cut from ticket sales from the door and whatnot, all of a sudden, if you pay them a split of the door, they're going to keep wanting a split of the door. When it first starts off, it's like, oh, we got $100 from the door, so every gig musician gets $30. Well, a year later, oh, it's $1,000 from the door, so everyone gets $333. And then, oh, it's $10,000 at the door. It's like, I don't really want to give everybody $3,333. If you set the thing ahead of time, you can say, hey, we're doing better now. Instead of $50 rehearsals and $100 at the door, I'll give you $150 a rehearsal and $250 at the door. But now you're in control of it.
I think what Sean's saying here, if you weren't following along with that, is that flat rates are probably how you want to go with hiring these gigging or sitting musicians, and not a percentage of the cut, because once you get into percentages, you lose a lot more over time and very quickly. That 15% that you split at the door with somebody, like Sean was saying, could easily become $1,500 one day, right? And then you're like, whoa, that's not really like I kind of built this myself, but like with the help, right? But like, so maybe offer these guys more, right, as a flat rate, but don't build in the percentage right away.
Because it also hurts your ability to invest in yourself more in the future. Because as you grow, it makes sense to put more monetary and time investment back into it so that you can refine and grow and develop it. If you're giving away a large cut of the door, well, now you're going to have to play more live shows before you can afford to go into the studio to record the next album.
Exactly.
And that's more out of your pocket. And that's more risk because maybe one show, a lot of people don't show up, or things can go bad, or the car breaks down, the van breaks down on the road, and well, you don't have enough cash. And there's, we're just gig musicians. We're not going to give you $2,000 to fix your van on the road.
Exactly.
So you got to be aware of that. The more you can have to invest into the music and make sure everything runs smoothly, because things break on the road. You're going to need to record the next album. You're going to need to promote the next album. You're going to have to hire more people on as you grow. And
not only that,
campaigns and all this stuff.
Taxes. Right up front. Before all of that. That's at least, I'm not a tax professional, so go talk to your CPA, but that's at least 30%. Gone.
So
it's just the way it is.
It's the way it is.
Just is the way it is. So just be mindful of that. Don't give up any equity right away, unless like you're in a band with other people, or they join later, maybe, right? And then that way they are splitting the cost. They are putting in time for studio time. They are fixing the van with you.
Exactly. We're talking about gigging musicians that are for hire, because they're for hire. Their job is to play with you. Not we are part of the band. We are part of the group. We have an equal investment.
Absolutely.
In this with you. If they are part of the band, none of this applies. None of this applies.
So
the best thing to do
skip that.
If you are in a band with them, the best thing to do is just split it evenly.
Exactly.
Even if, I wrote the lyrics for this song, so I should get 60% of the royalties and he should get 40. It's like, no, just split it evenly.
Just split it.
That's the best way to stick around as long as possible, because there's no ill will in the group. That's what, I think it's Coldplay is famous, because everything they split 4 ways.
Oh, interesting.
Everything.
I didn't know that.
Everything is split 4 ways.
That's the best way to do it?
Yep. Any sort of revenue from the tour, from costs, from ads, from anything, they just split 4 ways. Because they don't want to deal with it.
Exactly.
And everyone's a part, everyone's invested in it. They wouldn't get there without everybody in the group, so they just split it 4 ways.
It's true. And if you're having issues with value like that, then with like one person, then you need to collectively make a decision about that one person that's not adding the same amount of value. That would be split amongst maybe 33 or something, So definitely a great point that you made there. 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So 100%. Now that you've got your gigging musicians, you've approached them with the budget you can give them, they agree to it, and you've told them, now the next step is to tell them how many rehearsals you plan on doing. You don't want to spring last minute, hey, thanks for accepting the gig on Friday. The next 3 days we're doing 5-hour rehearsals at my place. We expect you there.
Because those rehearsals could cost money. from the sitting musician.
Yeah. Well, they're spending a lot of time to drive out there and give
Learning
you
your
learn the
stuff.
stuff. Yeah. So one, they should be reimbursed for spending time. They should know how long a session is going to be, a rehearsal is going to be, and set the expectation ahead of time of, hey, the gig is 2 weeks from now. We're going to have 1 rehearsal a week up until the point, so 2 rehearsals total. And this is what this is what we agreed upon to pay you per each rehearsal. I said, usually it's less than the full gig. But have that expectation set so that one, you don't spring it on them and they're like, well, crap, that I'm already booked those other days. I can't do it. So when the gig does come, they're completely unprepared. Or worst case scenario, this is too much. I didn't agree to this, man. I'm not doing it anymore. Now you're out. Now you got to go through the whole process again.
Find somebody before Friday. Bummer. Bummer. Because it could be tough. It can be tough.
So here's the thing. You found a gig musician. You've decided on what days you're rehearsing and how many times you're doing it. Everyone's down for it. Schedules are clear. You show up to the rehearsal space.
Are you saying it's practice time?
It's practice time.
Ooh, that's practice.
How do you become efficient with it? So before we jump into it, I'm just going to kind of talk about the importance of rehearsal. A live performance, well, I'm kind of stealing this from what you had on the notes, but a live performance isn't the time to practice. It's the time to showcase your music.
I stole it from you first.
We're just like stealing back and forth.
I know.
Bunch of thieves here.
I know.
But no, a live show is not the time to practice.
Correct.
It's not on stage in the rehearsal room. So the importance of practicing. Picture this. Imagine you have the in-laws coming over for the first time and you really want to impress them by cooking up a delectable dish. It's time to show your skills. Delectable.
Yummy.
Throw down in the kitchen.
Yummy. I know.
Throw down in the kitchen, impress them with your skills, and you'll be a glory amongst the in-laws. They'll want to come back time and time again. And you decide to do a brand new recipe that you've never cooked before. Well, they come over and you get started and you realize, oh crap, this doesn't take an hour to cook. This takes 4 hours to cook. I'm not going to have this done in time.
And you didn't defrost the chicken.
You didn't know what spices to do. You didn't have everything prepared. So they're expecting to eat an hour, but it actually takes like 5 hours from now. And you forget the appetizer and you burn the dish and you smoke coming from the kitchen because you get frazzled because you don't know what to do. And by the time you serve it, it's so late. It's cold. It's burnt. It doesn't taste good. And they're just like, you know what? Let's go to a restaurant next time. They're never going to want to come back for your cooking. Even if you are a great cook.
Bad impression.
It can be a bad impression. And that's a worst case scenario, but you never know how things are going to happen. Don't serve your in-laws burnt chicken. Don't give your fans burnt songs.
100%. You know, it's funny because you mentioned something really important is that they leave, right? Let's go to the restaurant next time. Well, you've already started a negative feedback loop there. So now it's like, well, do I want to go back to the show that they're playing? Because last time it was a fucking mess, right? And like, it was a mess that they could have fixed, right? So maybe a power outage happened. Maybe the venue flooded. I don't know.
Or just the bass.
Something blew up, God forbid. Oh my God. Why do I say this shit, Sean? But like, seriously, maybe something out of the control of the band, right? That's not really on you and they'll understand. But let's say you have some really bad songs.
Bass player plays in the wrong key.
And
the guitarist misses his solo. And when you try to recuperate and start back the song, then he hits the solo.
The vocalist constantly forgets lyrics. It happens, but he constantly forgets lyrics, right? Nobody wants to see an unfinished product like that. You have to refine that beforehand and make sure you're at least solid and ready to go. Mistakes happen, right? And usually they're forgettable. Or some in the last episode,
play through it, they won't notice.
Right. Sometimes those mistakes can be a part of the experience as well, right? We talked about that in the last episode. But you have to make sure that you're at least taking this rehearsal seriously, so you're refined when you go and showcase your product you've been working so hard on, that you've hired people for and that you've put so much time into. If you don't do that, that'll leave people feeling like they lost value because they wasted their time. Terrible. When I want to be entertained, I don't know about you, but when you want to go be entertained, right? You want to be entertained. You don't want to go there and feel like, well, I was slightly entertained, but it was more of an annoyance and I'm never going back. Terrible.
Or the worst thing is, I'm not impressed by this band. There's a bunch of silence. There's like a minute and a half of silence between the songs. So I'm just going to go to the bar and order a drink. And then they get drunk. Like, I had a great night. there was a band there?
Yeah. Oh, the band was all right, but it was really about me drinking so much.
Yeah, you then miss out on. They could have been a great fan if you grabbed their attention. They might really vibe with the music.
Yep.
So as I said, like it's not only about rehearsing the music.
Yep.
It's also about just a couple things that you need to do at rehearsal.
Yeah, and you need to rehearse the banter, which is what you were just pointing out. Is that you need to, and we've talked about this in the other episode as well. So go back and listen to that. I believe that's episode 11. But you need to rehearse that time in between songs and the transition, and you need to make sure that you hit at least some kind of bullet point as well with certain shout outs. Shout out to the venue, shout out to the wait staff, shout out to the sound guy, shout out to somebody in the crowd that might have helped you set up a mic stand, maybe, right? Like just the little things that is just like the attention to detail. That's the cherry on top of the experience, because the experience market is really important. And there's a lot going on in that experience market that is constantly being, I guess, just utilized. Bad way of saying it. There's just people want to experience things, right? And like you need to make sure that experience is very, very well portrayed, presented. I'm struggling right now. But seriously, like you need polished. Yeah.
Like you're actually like representing your brand, your music, your values, what you stand for effectively and entertainingly.
Absolutely.
So that they want to come back again. They have a good time. They feel a strong emotion of excitement or happiness.
Exactly.
Or just the energy of the room that you provide. And another thing you got to do in rehearsal to make sure you're able to do that, and this ties into the banner too, because you can tie it in with it, is deciding on your set list.
Yes.
This is important for so many reasons. Because one, what theory is, you want to start with your most or second most popular song when you're just starting. Because if you're just starting off and you're in a building on a ticket with 4 other bands, most of the people aren't there to see you, especially if you're just starting. They're there to see the headliner or the second band or the band before you or whatever. They're not necessarily there to see you. So you need to grab their attention right off the bat so they come to the stage and stay there throughout the set.
Exactly.
So plan. Okay, what song is our hit?
Yep.
What gets people moving? What grabs their attention? Start with that. Put it right on the line. Just walk on stage and start going to grab people in.
Yep.
And then don't stop and tune your guitar. Take a couple seconds break. Sip your water.
Yeah.
Talk to the band.
Yeah. Yeah.
Away from the microphones, nobody can see what's going on. No. Have some banner plugged in, or have a set list of, hey, this song, then this song, then this song. And then you can put in the set list, break here, where we pause.
Yep.
Then song, then comment here, tell a story of next song. And when you have these bullet points set up and you rehearse them, it keeps it a smooth transition.
Exactly.
And after you grab their attention with the first song, now they're there watching and listening throughout the whole show. Don't give them a reason to go to the bar and forget about you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Two small caveats. One is going back to the banter thing real quick, is that you can't practice all banter because of crowd interaction.
Yes.
You need to learn how to interact with the crowd. That is a whole separate skill that also ties into banter as well. But you'd be sitting in your basement for years just trying to practice and think of every single situation and trying to come up with a response for it. You can't do it. But just make sure that you are able to interact with a crowd well. Usually that bodes well with really good social skills. And so that's a muscle and a whole thing within itself that you just need to go out and work on. Second of all, is that sometimes those transitions in between sets, between bands, those can be really tough if the venue doesn't do sound check for every band beforehand too. So that is also like a consideration going back to like maybe like the second point, or no, maybe the third point, that we were talking about for the 3 criteria, right? Do I want to take this? Like, how do they run the show? I know, like in the case of the Blind Pig, they do sound check before each band gets on stage, like one by one. So after one band completes, they do sound check for the next band. Personally, for me, I feel like that ruins the show and ruins the immersion. I mean, you have like a 15-minute break in between, and like maybe you can speak better to this as a live sound.
Most venues do that.
Do they?
Most festivals have to do that.
Gotcha.
Unless, especially if the musicians are providing the back line. If the venue provides the back line, then they can just jump from musician to musician, band to band, because the drums already have the mics placed. The amps are already set volume wise in place. We're just plugging in the new guitar, the lead singer's walking up, and the drummer sits behind the
Yeah.
that makes it but that's not how most venues run it.
Mhm.
That's not how most
Mhm.
festivals run it. When you get bigger or different kind of things, they do exist like that.
Yeah, because there's recall on these on certain boards that they can
Yeah.
program and then bring up, and then they will make small tweaks and then go. You know,
Yeah.
that is a consideration, though. I think, you know, to also be mindful of, is because that can also take the audience out of. It can decrease their attention span, right? And then you got to kind of fight for that back. But that's why Sean's saying start with your biggest song, though,
Yeah,
or,
or
like,
your
or your
second.
second biggest song.
If you
or your
are
second
worried
song.
about
Yeah.
how the first song is going to sound,
Yep.
if you are worried, I don't know about the sound guy, he didn't really tone us in beforehand.
Yeah.
It was like a 30-minute break between songs. They had to bring their whole stage, like the whole drum kit and everything. We have to bring everything back up. Maybe start with your second biggest song.
Yeah.
To get people to come still, but then when the sound guy does dial it in, then you hit with your big one at the end as a big finale.
Exactly.
But if it's like, man, this guy's on top of it, the backline instruments are already set, or we just sound check beforehand, hit fast, hit hard, hit loud.
Yep.
Set that tone so people are invested in it right off the bat.
100%.
So that's why I said like your biggest or your second big.
Totally,
biggest.
which 100% illustrates the point why you should do that, right? And no, I thought that was a great point.
Speaking of which, if there is a sound guy, we're gonna have an episode later on where we talk about like how to talk to your sound guy to actually like get him on your side, because you both want the same thing. You want to sound awesome, and the sound guy wants you to sound awesome.
Yep.
So there's ways to work with them so that you can get the best result, not piss them off. So we're gonna be talking about that in a different episode. But if you can build a good relationship off of them before the show even begins, and you have a good rapport going, and he likes the same music that you inspires you, and that's the kind of sound you want, then you can confidently say like, he's got it. I'm gonna start right off the bat and we're gonna kill it.
Yep.
If not, maybe adjust your strategy.
Totally.
But yeah, that's very important to rehearse and decide beforehand what is the list, what can be expected, especially if you are hiring gigging musicians. Because if you're deciding songs on the fly, it looks bad, but two, it can confuse the hell out of the musician.
For sure.
It's like, oh shit, we didn't practice that song.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna do a 4/4 the whole time.
And you know, the worst part about that is that you can see that sometimes with gigging musicians because it wasn't rehearsed well, and that is some personal responsibility sometimes on the gigging musician. So you have to really be careful on who you hire and probably vet them, or at least trust them through a trusted friend really well. But when you're on stage looking at the other guitar player's chord that is leading, like let's say like you're a guitar player and you hired these guys and they're looking at your hands to see what the chord progression is. I see that and I'm like, this is not well rehearsed. I'm done. Like seriously, I don't take it as seriously. I've seen that a few times with people that have hired people, and I'm like, we didn't want to, like seriously, like we didn't want to like double check this before, or like at least do a rehearsal and just make sure we were solid, because that does translate. Like you will take your audience out of it if you're looking like bending your damn neck to see what chords are being played, right?
I would say caveat to that. We like that word.
Yes, we do. But there's caveat to everything.
There's always caveat.
Yeah, caviar.
So I would say it can be either, for the most part, it's actually the fault of the person who is hiring them for not giving them enough resources.
Exactly.
But if you do give the resources and the gig musician doesn't practice it or isn't prepared for it, then it's a song you said, we're going to play this song there, then it's the gig musician.
Totally. My miswording if I made it sound like it was all the responsibility of the guy that was being hired.
But I just want to clarify.
Yeah. But that can be obviously majorly the person that hired and didn't give them the resources to do that, right? Yeah. So it goes both ways.
But secondly, if the rest of the song is, we think of, as musicians and audio engineers and whatnot, we think of a live show and a performance differently. Most people who go to shows aren't going to watch and participate in the same way that we are. They're going for the experience, for the memory, for the emotion behind it. So even if the gigging musician is goosenecking over trying to learn the chords and it sounds a little off, but he's for the most part following along, most people in the crowd aren't going to notice it. Especially if you are killing it up front. So it's not the end of the world if that kind of things happen. So but just
there are people that will notice though, like me. I will notice,
but most people won't.
But most people might not.
Most people won't.
Most people might not. But just make sure you get it right. Seriously, just make sure you get it right.
I think that pretty much covers.
Yeah, I think so.
So, man, now that we're done talking about this topic, I'm just like, how can I transition out of this?
This is a good transition.
Just wondering how to transition. Man, we need to work more on the end part of the
We
episodes.
do.
We get
We
so
do.
into it during the meat and potatoes
We
where
do.
we just completely forget.
We always
how to
forget about
transition to
dessert. Wow.
I was
That
building
was
up to it.
good.
You caught on.
Can you believe that we've
No.
done this for this long now?
Oh, yeah,
It's
was this
been
episode
at least
15?
12 weeks.
Oh man. But, you know, so if you can if you can get on top of this, if you take the right gigs, get good gigging musicians, rehearsals go well, you know, you'll be able to stay more focused on your sound, the presentation, keep that all in mind, and be able to reach the right audiences because everything is presented authentically and how it needs to be to grab their attention and represent your music and the values and the brand behind it.
Mhm.
So all this is important at getting yourself ready for the big show. But next episode, we're going to be talking about the big show is now.
Yes.
Time to get started. You've prepared, you've
Yep.
rehearsed, you've got the musicians, you've booked the gig, time to kill it. So we'll be tackling that in the next episode. But until then, please share this podcast with
Please.
any of your musician buddies that
Yeah.
you think would benefit from this.
Yeah.
Because if you benefit from it, I know there's got to be at least one person who, like you, really wants to expand their career, take this seriously, make a living doing what they love,
Absolutely.
and, you know, cook up some success in the music industry.
I like that.
Yeah, tie it back to the podcast.
Man.
Don't
forget to season.
Don't forget to season.
Yeah, you have to season.
So from our kitchen to yours, time to get cooking.
Bon appetit.
Woo!